In addition to being knowledgeable about the record books and record keeping, is also the technology guru. So is there anything special you need to do with these clickers?
Not necessarily. I mean, if you can operate a phone, you can operate one of these little guys. A lot of the questions, or all the questions, I guess, are going to be multiple choice. Either 1, 2, 3, 4, or A, B, C, D, and so there's those numbers or whatever on the keypad. And so whenever one of the screens pops up that asks a question, then all you got to do is just select your answer, and you'll know that your vote was counted. If there's a little green light on the kind of the upper right-hand side, if that lights up green whenever you click the button, then you know that your vote got registered. So no biggie there, though.
And it won't let you. I mean, even if you push it twice, it'll only register your vote once. So don't panic about that.
Voted once and click it again.
Do we get kicked out for wrong answer?
And of course, we have no clue who's answering in whatever manner, so we won't even know where the answer came from.
Yeah, this is totally anonymous.
We want to embarrass you.
There are some questions on here that ask for your honest opinion about some stuff. So it is anonymous. I mean, I didn't write down the numbers of these things whenever I handed them out to you. I could have tried to go, who said that? But anyway, so it's not. It's something that your districts may or may not have, on the side. So you may check with your county agents and see if they've got access to some of these little guys. To me, it just makes the presentations a little more interactive. Because you never know as a presenter if people are calling sleep on you, and this is one way to make sure that they're not. To get full audience participation. So.
All right, so to get started, here's your first question of the day. How long has your family been involved in the 4-H program? So out of the choices, 1, 2, 3, 4 that are up there, if you'll select that. 19 responses so far. Good morning. All right, well, it looks like pretty much everybody has responded. So can you pull up? Yeah,
yep.
There's 26 with Joanne will come in. So. Okay, so it looks like just a quick assessment of who's in the room. A largest number of you, 40%, have been involved in 4-H for 1 to 3 years, and then 4 to 6 years. So we've got some that are a little more tenured with 7+ years. But we were just trying to gauge, you know, are y'all folks that have been doing this for 20 years or newer to the program? All right.
And we've got 16% that are been here for 10 or more years. Where are y'all at? Excellent. Good. Glad to have y'all here. And y'all may have more words of wisdom about this particular topic than the rest of us. But you've probably seen it change a few times over the years, and it's probably something that needs to change periodically anyway. So, all right, next question.
All right, how many years has your family completed a record book?
Okay, I can screw that one really well. I'm not going to vote on this.
Talking consecutively.
And if it's 0, you don't have to vote. Sorry, I should have put that option up there.
What's that?
0.
Oh,
Then
0.
I've never done a record book. So we have 21 responses. Everybody that's going to vote voted. Okay. Okay, so.
Bunch of names.
Yes, earlier in your 4-H record book experience. That's good to know. Again, we're trying to find out how to gauge if there's some basic stuff we need to cover, or if we need to skip over the basic stuff and keep rolling. All right, next question. What is your primary role in the 4-H program? Are you a club manager? Are you a project leader? Are you a, just general volunteer as a parent, or are you just strictly a parent and don't really serve in a volunteer role within the 4-H program?
Look at all of the above.
It's primary.
Yeah, whatever you,
That was our primary.
That's true.
Depends on where you go with what kid.
Depends on whether or not you want to be a parent today,
Exactly.
or if you want to be a parent to somebody else's child.
all right, let's see how you responded. Okay, so there's quite a few of you that are serving a club manager's role. So as we look at that, obviously serving as a club manager, even just as a volunteer in our program, although we don't ask you to be an expert in every project area of 4-H, we certainly think record keeping and record books are an important part of the program that kind of overlay over the top of any project area. And so we would hope that as a volunteer, and especially as a club manager, you have some basic knowledge of our record book system so that you can provide some guidance to young people as they ask. So, all right, next question. All right, let's give us your honest opinion. If you've been exposed to the current record keeping or record book system, give us your honest thoughts. Again, we're not tracking your devices. As we get into probably the second hour of our presentation, you'll see why this question is really important to us. So, everybody voted that's going to vote. It looks like we've had 20 responses. Okay. Need some changes. Okay, that's kind of what we anticipated. We're curious to see if number 4 ranked the highest, but anyway, so what I can tell you, as being the 4-H faculty, Derek and I, just as much as you think it needs changes, we think it needs changes too. And it's been an ongoing conversation for a couple of years now about the fact that it needs changes. And then we, we'll poll a small group to find out some ideas for changes and get, very mixed reviews. And then we'll poll a larger audience. And so we've been throwing this around for 2 years. And so Derek and I are both at the point that we just need to make a decision and move forward. And not everyone's going to be happy with it, but we need to try to get it up to speed to make it more user-friendly for our families. All right, next question. Why did you decide to attend this session? You want Recordbook pointers? You wanted to see if there are going to be changes? No other sessions sound good, or you're not really, didn't mean to be sitting in this room?
Yeah. This is about Recordbooks? What?
Okay, so many of you wanted some Recordbook pointers. And so as we go through this session, we're going to spend the first half of it on talking about Recordbook pointers, on strengthening your child's Recordbook or the 4-H members that you're assisting with some extra pointers. And certainly those of you that have done it, even if you've done it 1 year or been the 10 plus years of doing Recordbooks, please share your personal experiences. If you've seen something that you thought really worked or seen something that you thought really didn't work, feel free to speak up. I will say, I assist a lot of kids doing it, but I don't have children of my own yet doing Recordbooks. Derek, as a father of 4-H members as well, has sees it from both sides, the 4-H faculty side as well as the dad side, and so he certainly has his opinions on what needs to change as well. So.
Yeah, I really feel your pain on the Recordbooks, and being when I was a county extension agent in Tyler, I still remember it was like a day, maybe 2 days before Recordbooks were due in my county, and I had a mama that her kids were probably 14, 15 years old, somewhere along in there. And I still remember the phone call very vividly. She called me up and she was talking about, how stressed she was, and then she started crying. And I said, Charlesa, I said, it's not worth crying about. I said, record keeping and all that. And I said, don't do it for the sake of meeting the deadline. If we're going to do it, let's keep records for the sake of helping your kids. I said, don't worry about the deadline, put the deadline away. Let's figure out what you need to prepare your kids to do as far as keeping records so that they can go back and work on their scholarship applications later on down the road, which is really kind of one of the key things that we need to be tying together a little bit as we work with our young people. So, but yeah, don't let it get to the point where you're crying about it.
I don't know that my parents ever cried, but I think I got a few spankings over when I was in 4-H myself.
I threatened it, believe me.
Okay, and then just a few more quick questions. We'll continue to use the clickers and then we'll push those aside. But we're just going to, again, just test your Recordbook knowledge. And so the first question is, how many objectives are there for the Recordbook categories? Does anybody know how many Recordbook objectives there are? They always tell you in Section 1, Part 2, reference the Recordbook objectives. Anybody give us your thought?
Where to find it.
Yeah.
That's a bigger question. But we didn't ask that.
All right, let's see who got it right.
Some of them obviously don't want to answer.
67% were correct. There are 5 general Recordbook objectives that apply to all Recordbook categories. All right.
Used to be 10.
I was going to say, but you can
10.
still, depending on what you look at, there are still 10
Yeah, it
references in
depends
some of the materials.
Yeah, if you can find some of the old material out there.
I just got a copy, well, I was helping judging on our local level, and I had actually gotten a copy of what to go off of, and it still referenced all 10 of them.
Oh, wow.
So it's
See?
like,
Yeah, so our
yeah, that's all right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. How many projects can you list in the 4-H Learning Experiences section? So that the first page of the report forms. The guidelines recommend that you reference X number of projects or everybody get their vote in. Let's see. Okay, 48% 98% of you are correct. It says the guidelines say to reference up to 4 of your strongest record book projects, or not record book, 4-H projects. And so, of course, obviously, if you're just starting out in the 4-H program, your child may not be at the point that you're taking on 4 projects. Even if you've been in the program for a while, you may just really focus on 1 or 2 projects that are really strong and you know, don't even get up to 4. But the guidelines do recommend that you can go up to 4 in that section. All right, next question. What's the maximum number of pages for your 4-H story and photo portfolio? Now mine is,
Entering the photo.
yeah, I was gonna say, disclaimer, with the exception of the photography category, so just in general, what's the maximum number of pages for your story and photo portfolio?
That's a trick section.
Responses. All right. Let's see. 10 pages is correct. So 95% of you got that right. Good job. And so, of course, with the disclaimer, if you have a photography record book, you can add an additional 6 pages that are directly related, photo pages that are directly related to your photography project. All right. I think we'll get to our last question. Which of these, now read this carefully, which of these things cannot be reported in the non-4-H activities section of your record book? Which cannot be reported in non-4-H activities. Okay. 4-H community service, because there is a separate section for 4-H community service. So I'm impressed that 57% of you got that right. You should include in all that non-4-H activities should be school activities, church activities, organizations that you're in outside of 4-H. And then the thing that sometimes throws people is if you have a Clover Kids program in your county and your child has participated in that, all of your Clover Kid activities should be listed under non-4-H. I know that sounds confusing because you think, well, Clover Kids is part of 4-H, but they're technically not of official 4-H age yet, and so all your Clover Kids stuff also goes in your non-4-H activities page, that very last page of the recommended form. So, all right, we'll quit quizzing you first thing this morning and go ahead and move into so just some things that we'd like to cover today in this 2-hour session is discuss the current record keeping and record book system that we have in place right now. Probably many of you, it's still very fresh in your mind because you just recently in the last month or 2 probably helped your child complete their record book for this past 4-H year. It's gone through the judging process. And so we want to talk about that. We want to certainly give some pointers and some tips to improving the forms that are in the current system. As we've mentioned, there are some changes or potential changes on the horizon, I should say. But what Derek and I really want to learn from you today is we're going to show you what some of the ideas are, and we want your honest feedback. And so no one else is going to has seen any of the stuff that we're going to show kind of in the second hour. And so as we show it to you, you know, whatever pops into your head, if you think, oh my gosh, that's horrible, please tell us. If you think, oh wow, that would work, but maybe we need to tweak it. And we do have an instrument where you can write some of those comments down if you don't feel comfortable verbally sharing them with the group. But anyway, and so as we demonstrate some of a online record keeping system that's kind of in the works, again, we really want y'all's honest feedback as we kind of walk through the steps of it and show that to you so that we can kind of gauge where we need to go from here on implementing some of those changes. So. And we're done using the clickers, so y'all can push those aside out of your way. All right, so just real quickly, I wanted to share this with you. This year in May, when they brought in all of the graduating seniors that had applied for a 4-H scholarship, the application process, if you're unfamiliar with it, is you apply and normally turn it in sometime in February. there's a panel of judges that review the actual paper applications and score those. And then of those, the top ranking ones get invited to go through an interview process. And if you are invited to go through the interview process, you're going to get some sort of scholarship. It may be $500, it may be $15,000. And so you're guaranteed some scholarship if you get to the interview process stage of the game. And so when we conducted the interviews in May in Austin, once the kids came out of their interviews, we gave them this little short survey asking them about, we were trying to figure out, is there a correlation between kids that are getting our 4-H scholarships and those that are doing record books? And not to get into a bunch of the statistics, because we don't, there's probably lots of other more in-depth research we could do, but again, just asking them some very basic information of the kids that went through the interview process. So again, those were guaranteed to have got some form of 4-H scholarship. 88% of them had said they had completed a record book. So, I mean, I think that speaks highly of those that have been consistent about keeping up with record books to assist them with the scholarship process. 42% of those had completed a record book for 7 to 10 years of their 4-H career. And so not quite half of them had pretty much done record books from when they first joined 4-H at 8 or 9 years old until they were graduating. 86% said that the record keeping skills they learned helped them in actually completing the scholarship form. And then 83% said they had used their record books as they were filling out the 4-H scholarship application as well as others. And so, you glean from that whatever you want from the information, but we just thought it was interesting to see. So obviously, there was 12% that said they had never done a record book and they still had a successful scholarship application. They made it to the interview process. Now, we didn't track them one for one to be able to go and say the ones that got, $15,000 or $16,000 scholarships have done record books, and the ones that got $500 hadn't. So we didn't get that detailed information out of them, but we were just curious to see, is the record-keeping skills they're learning from doing record books of any benefit when they get to this point of the game when they're graduating and doing scholarships? So those are just a few of the statistics I pulled from our data on that. So as we kind of get into the meat of stuff this morning, y'all share with me what is the real purpose of us trying to convince our kids that it's important to keep records or to do a record book? What are the discussions in y'all's households? Is it just something that we tell them they need to do just because it's part of the 4-H program? Do you see benefit as a parent or a leader? What are we trying to accomplish by making them keep records and do record books?
It helps them organized.
Keeps them organized?
It helps them year to year look and see how much they've accomplished and what they've changed.
Okay, good point.
And if they don't write it down, they'll forget that they did it.
Yes.
So you forget, you forgot you did that community service, which could be look very well in an application or a scholarship.
From
month to month, you forget which.
Yeah, exactly.
The next day.
As a 4-H parent or volunteer, what do you think motivates the kids to do it? Is it mom standing over them with a paddle? Is it an awards program on the county level? Is it, what do y'all think motivates the kids to get it done?
I don't think the kids really know the younger ones. In our case, our family, it's just my wife did it, for 9 years, and she just knows the benefits of it, and she's trying to influence the younger kids with her knowledge.
Okay, very good.
I'm trying to teach my girls the financial piece because I think money grows on trees. So just to get them to understand we make money with this money.
Sure. Sure. I will say, from my own 4-H experiences, that is the one thing I remember about record books is every year when we sat down at the kitchen table and we're working on record books and we had to figure out, I primarily showed livestock projects, but figured out the expenses versus income. It was really eye-opening for me as a young person to go, oh my gosh, I had no idea that we spent that much money on feed this year, whatever. And so I guess it made me, even if I didn't show it at the time, probably a little more appreciative of my parents and the commitment that they had to keeping me involved in the 4-H program. So, Any other ideas?
In our county, it's expected, and therefore, it's not a question of, if you're in your record book, it's more when you get it turned in.
Okay.
So, and the frenzy of that, especially that last week, as everybody in this room knows, is great kinetic energy that the kids kind of share and commiserate as far as got it in, and help each other too.
Sure. Okay. How many of you, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, is there ever a time that after you turn in your record books and then you get them back or whatever, whether it's in the club setting, the project meeting setting, or just at home with your own child, is there a time where you spend that time talking with your kids and saying, figuring out what you're really strong at, what are some areas we need to work on for next year? Do y'all do that? I mean, do you use the record book in that kind of sense as a tool? And if not, fine.
Sometimes you don't, when the record books are judged, there's no comments. So
Right.
you're like, okay, well, what do they need to work on if there's no
We've got something.
feedback?
Or
We've got
it's
something in
conflicting.
store with that.
The
What
comments
judge
are
is
extremely
right?
conflicting. It's like, okay, so what's the right answer?
Yes, and that is, I will say, I know we talked about it, we had a long discussion about it, is, even on the district level, we have district record book judging, you stand up and do an orientation with the judges and say, I always tell them, I don't care if you put a numeric value, you spend time putting comments, and there's nothing more disappointing than seeing my book got third and all it says is good story, great pictures, keep up the good work. What in the world do I work on? So that's a tool that we'll share with you, or a potential tool that we'll share with you in the second hour. We had a big long conversation about that. Okay, so I guess just, trying to keep in mind the real purpose of keeping records, and obviously an 8 or 9-year-old and probably even a 15 or 16-year-old is still going to moan and groan about having to keep records and not really see the point in it all, but hopefully it's one of those life skills that they can take away from 4-H, and although they don't see the value at the moment, down the road it will pay off, whether it's to see the financial, aspects of their project work, and whether it's strengthening their setting goals, their ability to set goals and achieve goals. So, just kind of keep that in mind. Although we get caught up in the process of completing a record book, and that, you're like, why do I fight my kid on this every year? We hope that the life skill they're learning of record keeping will pay off. So.
Yeah. And like I was saying just a second ago, just using the record book as a tool to find out your own child's deficiencies, the areas that they really need to work on for the next year. I know, my kids, our biggest lack in our record book is community service. I can see that. I can see by what we did or didn't do in our record book what we need to work on for next year and strengthen. So, using it as a tool to help mold your kids in your club or your own personal kids, maybe that's part of the first meeting back, that you spend time, let's look at what you did last year. Now let's set some goals, what you need to do for this coming year. That's really, to make it really a tool and useful, that really needs to be part of the process. It's taking what you've done rather than just turning it in and, we got to apply for awards or whatever, you got to do with it. Actually using it as a tool to help the kids is really the ultimate goal, hopefully, of our whole record-keeping system. So,
Okay. Yeah, we'll roll through these next few slides kind of quickly. So these are our 5 current record-keeping
if you have 10, throw them away.
Yeah, 10 was the old system, and 5 is the current system. But quite honestly, if you don't see the little green things in parentheses, which quite honestly is not in any of the resource material that I think we currently have out there for you as a parent or volunteer to use, just trying to read or get a 9-year-old or, again, even a 16-year-old to understand what record book objective number 1 is about obtaining a broad knowledge of 4-H projects. I'm going to pick on whoever came up with the last record book keeping system, because I was on 4-H faculty at the time, so it wasn't me or Barry. But I think these objectives are nice thoughts, but they're not kid-friendly. And I don't know about you, but I think it's harder than all get out to figure out, okay, what record book objective do we meet by going to the vet clinic and learning how to give injections. Now, what Recordbook objective did we meet by doing, whatever activity it is? And so, to me, that's one of the things that bogs down families a lot, is trying to figure out the Recordbook objectives and what each of the different learning experiences correlates to in the Recordbook system. So, we kind of have some thoughts on this too that we'll share, but your experiences with the Recordbook objectives, and these 5 objectives, of course, the objectives themselves are on the State 4-H website and they're easy to find. It's just the little green words and parentheses behind them that, to me, help just kind of capture it all. That I honestly just saw in a document earlier this year. And I've been employed by Extension for 12 years now, so I thought, if I had just seen those little green words before, that would have really helped me. So, do y'all struggle with dealing with sorting through the objectives and?
Go ahead. My daughter, this is the black and white of it. Very few kids actually do their record books.
Yes, good point.
I have a son that's 21. He was handicapped and had lots of disabilities. He never even looked at his record book. Actually, I didn't allow him to touch his record. My daughter is 12. She's a writer. Just commended on the tax writing. That part of it, she looks at me like I'm an idiot when I want her to even attempt to try to help us with objectives. She wants to write the stories and insert the pictures. But it's like she looks at me like I have no clue what any of this means, don't want to know what it means. She wants to help with her record, but when she looks at that, she's not even going to start reading it.
Yeah. I just think we've overcomplicated the system, I think is what our problem is we've made it to where our young people almost can't do it themselves.
I think that a very, kid in GT or very extremely smart child could do their own record book. I've been in 4-H for many, many years, and I've seen two kids do their own record book. In my county.
Sure,
I'm not
sure.
saying it everywhere.
No, and I appreciate your honesty, and I think there's probably many of you in this room that are shaking your head going, yeah, I've seen it too, or that happens in my own family. Yeah.
2 kids in our county I've seen do their own record book. I think there would be many more kids to do their own if they could.
They could understand it.
Yeah.
Sure. So, I think, again, having some objectives or general ideas of why we're doing this is fine, but I don't know that we need to tie every learning experience that we do to the specific objective. I personally would rather see your child sitting down at the beginning of the year and writing a goal or 2 of what they themselves say they want to accomplish, and then at the end of the year telling me, did I accomplish it or not? I think that's more valuable, to me or to our 4-H program is, did the kids set a goal and were they able to reach that goal, or if they weren't, did something happen along the way and they can reevaluate it and try again next year, rather than saying, did I acquire life skills essential for becoming an active, skilled, productive, and responsible citizen? So, although those are things that we want out of our kids, I just think that, I don't know, to me, that's
too adultified.
Agreed, yes. Yes, ma'am.
Even adultified, these are kind of over some people, they're just like, huh?
Yeah. I feel like someone at the university wrote that, and I'm like, whoa, okay.
Well, we got counted off in our record book. I have an 8-year-old GT student who does use big words, but we use some of these words because we were reading this and stuff, and we got counted off in our record book. Because it said, is this appropriate for his age to be doing that? And I was like, I did. I got so highly frustrated because I said, but this is what you're giving us.
Yes.
And then you're expecting us not to do that? And then my poor little 8-year-old was sitting here reading that comment going, well, what do they want me to do?
Yeah.
Well, I want to share this story. When we were judging, that's one of my other pet peeves. I don't like to judge record books unless I'm alone. Because all the other people in the room are making all these comments, and I just get so infuriated. But she was reading out loud a line out of this kid's story that said something to the effect that we went and toured such and such land farm to buy my lambs for the year, and there were lots of lambs there. And she was like, you know, kind of making fun of the kid's statement. And of course I said, okay, so all that tells me is that the mama didn't write that.
The kid
He
wrote
did.
it, yeah.
And I said, so I'm thinking, that's a pretty dang good thing right there. And she was like, but, I'm not, you know.
No, and y'all, I mean, I realize y'all may be thinking, okay, you're not giving us information that we want out of this workshop. We can't tell you the stories that you are sharing with us, how valuable it is to Derek and I as we go back to, in 2 weeks, we're meeting with the full 4-H faculty in Lubbock and giving them an update on kind of what.
I'm writing down some of the highlights here.
Yeah. So no, but that's good. We need to hear these things so that we can go back and say, see, this is why we need to change it. So
We're getting two different stories, you know, of how we need to be doing this. It's like if you let your child use that grammar and stuff like that, well, one time you get counted off. So then the next time you try to pump it up a little bit and say, well, let's use this word instead. And then you're getting counted off because you're, you know, but then at the same time, it's like you also have to think about where some of these children, you know, you're not meeting that child.
yeah, right.
So are we judging it on what they actually did? Or, you know, because if you meet the children, sometimes you see that this is how they speak, or this is what they did, or this is, but then, you know, so I'm sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the
I have
judging
two
of it is so
different children.
subjective. Yeah.
Exactly.
I have two different children at home, and one of them's going to say he got, you know, went and saw lots of lambs, and then the other one's going to say I saw an abundance of lambs.
Yeah.
You know? So it's kind of like, you know, that frustrated me too,
Certainly.
in that sense, because I'm like, holy cow, all you have to do is talk to that child, and I promise you, he's going to use
That's
the
how
word.
he talks, yeah.
He's going to use the word toward. I don't know where he comes from. I would say he got switched at the hospital, but he has too many other characteristics that say he
Yeah.
belongs to me. But, you know,
Gosh, yeah. Good
so
point.
it's just frustrating as a former 4-H'er,
Parent, sure.
leader, you know, it's just like, just give us what we
Is this a
need.
good time, Jody, for, since we're talking about the judging process? Or do you
Here,
want-
let's wait till
Okay.
this next round.
Oh, no.
No, it may help address some of these
We
things that
hope.
are bringing up, we hope.
We want to hear from you on it. but-
Last year was my daughter's first record book, and I did help her as much as I could because of the way that everything was written. It was not, the standard operating procedures were not extremely clear. And I've had a lot of calls to our club manager that 2 weeks that we were working on it. And Claire did whatever I asked her to do, but I have to come back and go, okay, we need to, she'd go, okay, fine. And then when you lead to the judging and you get contradicting comments from judges, it's like, could we please have training for all of our judges? Give them a rubrics, give them something so that they can, I know you're gonna, yes. Go for it.
Yes, ma'am.
I was just gonna say, out of our club, there's only 2 families that use a record book. None of us, other families do one, because every time we've gone to do one, it's so complicated that as a parent, if you weren't in 4-H, you don't have a clue what to do and how to
You're
direct your
intimidated,
kids.
yes.
Yeah, here's a
So,
blank page, fill it
that's
out.
why I'm here to get some pointers on how they can share that with the 22 other families in my club that's not doing the record book.
Yeah.
Because we all get together and we're like, oh no, because we just want,
Yeah, no one in my.
you know, we don't know.
Really?
You can do it, you can do it.
You know, it's not friendly for the ones that didn't do 4-H and just trying to
Yeah.
expand, you know, our kids. I mean,
I find it hard to not go to 4-H, the language assumes you know things.
yes, and you don't.
Good points.
In our club, none of ours did either. We went from 8 kids to 40 kids in 3 months. So we're trying to get them all on the same page, and it sounds like they don't realize that these are kids.
Oh, yeah.
So on the judging, I was asked to judge it, and I'm like, you know, I don't know anything about this. I can't even begin to judge these kids the way they should be judged.
Not without a decent, you know, if you have a decent sheet that says you need to look for this and this and this, and it spells it out for the judge, which would be really nice. And they're smiling, so maybe that's me.
And the other thing too, like as far as, you know, I have one daughter that has, okay, well, one judge will tell her to do, well, why don't you you to try this way, and the other one comes back and says, well, this is a good way to do it. They've done it, I mean, there's so many different ways of doing that second section, I think it is, where, you know, you have
Yes.
a two-page section. Well,
Yes.
you know, how do you sit there and, okay, figure out one way to do it and everybody do it the same way? Because, like I said, they both do exactly the same thing. One judge told one of them that, well, try doing it in a different format. And this is, I mean, she's graduated this year. She has done this format for 10 years.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden this year, one judge told her, why don't you try doing a different format? Like, she graduated, she can't do it in a different format. Anyway. And then the other one did exactly the same thing. Nice format. Oh, well, I'm thinking, really?
Yeah, it's very
Yeah,
difficult.
it is. And that's the hard part too, is because of, you know, we're pulling in, you know, agents and volunteers to serve as judges. You know, they all have their own kind of personal little style they like. And although we try to tell them at judges orientation, you know, it's okay to do it in charts or bullet statements or whatever, different formats, there's still people that just have those personal preferences.
Exactly.
And although they may write it on the score sheet, they may truly not count off for it, but it kind of leaves you with the thought like, okay, well, did they hammer her because they thought it should have been in a different format? So thank you all for sharing the stories. Okay, well, just because we're on this, we're going to just kind of go on a little side trip, which is all still very important to the record bookkeeping system. I mean, if any of you are familiar with just the score sheet, I know y'all probably can all see it. You know, there's all the little details and point values of what people should have in these little areas for judges' comments. And although it's a little area, they still frequently are not very full of comments. Again, I tell the judges at our district judging, I don't care about all the points because I'm not going to sit there and add up your scores. At the end of the day, you and the fellow judging team need to decide which was the best beef book in this age category, which was the second best, you know, and so, you know, you will rank them. So, because we see such inconsistencies in judging and lack of comments, and again, you know, frustrated parents calling saying, how do we improve? We got 4th place or we got 3rd place, but there was nothing in the comments to tell us what to improve on. Derek, as a parent, had previously started on this, and so he and I had this conversation too, so he's built on it, so I'm going to let you start sharing that part of it.
It's funny that one of you mentioned rubric a little bit ago. So, and exactly what Jody was saying a second ago is, you know, we see frustration on our end, and we see the frustration that you all have because you come to us. You know, I had a mom that pulled me aside at district judging this year, and she was trying to help one of her club members, parents, understand what, you know, why they got the place that they got. They got like a red ribbon. He was a senior kid. He's been super, super active. He's done things on the national level, and didn't understand why he got a red ribbon. And so I was trying to go through the book, and I was looking at the judges' score sheets, and I couldn't discern. I couldn't tell her why the judges gave him a red ribbon based on what was written on the score sheet. And I got frustrated with that process, but I went through his record book and started looking at different pieces and parts. I said, well, he can strengthen this area, and this area, and this area. I said, so that's probably why. I said, but it wasn't voiced. I mean, it wasn't written down anywhere on their score sheets. And I said, and I know that's not a help to you. I went home and started working on a record-keeping rubric this is, y'all are the first 4-H eyes to see it, other than myself, Jody, and Dr. Bowman. So
you'll notice it says draft concept on it, do not distribute. Please don't take this back to your county and say, this is a new thing they're doing. Because we're not.
Yeah, we're not pulling the trigger on this yet, so
But we want you to review it, and at first, don't get overwhelmed by it, because it looks like there's lots of words on here, but there are. But we're thinking rather than judges writing comments, they can circle.
Okay, can I ask just a real basic question? Because I don't even understand the whole, I've never seen a record book.
Okay.
Don't even know what one looks like. So do they pick, like, say beef, okay, my kids do beef. So say they do a beef, and then they add all the extra things they're doing in some other section?
Yes, there's 39 record book categories, which I wish we almost had more time today so we could determine determine if we need to adjust that number too. But anyway, so they would pick like whatever their strongest project area is, whether it's beef or shooting sports or food nutrition. And so they'd enter their record book in that category, but they would include information about any other project work they're doing. If they're, say they have a beef project, but they also say do shooting sports, so maybe they're on the archery team. They also participate in the county food show. We're doing the food nutrition project. So they would enter their book in the beef category, and they put all their stuff about their beef project, and they'd also
Like receipts and that.
just kind of a summary of those. You don't have to put all those in there. I mean, those are good things to kind of hang on to as you try to summarize it for your record book. But
We'll show some examples here,
Yeah,
some of the
we'll
other
put that
slides
here.
of what
Yeah.
some of the pages might look like or could look like. But this, like I said, is just something that I dreamed up and just started putting it to it. And I only filled out a couple of categories, and I sent it to Jody, and I said, you think this would work? You think this would fly? And she's like, can you fill out the rest of it? I was like, sure. So, like I said, this is just one person's doings here. So it's going to take a lot more eyes to look at this and to get the wording of all these different rubrics and all that kind of finalized. But is this a direction that we need to go in?
Yes.
As a parent, would this be helpful?
Yes.
And-
so we can click it right now. So you can tell your moment. 98% of them said do it.
She turned off the video. Oh, no, it's still going.
Is that right?
All right, we got that on video, so all y'all are unanimously saying yes. Well, I
There's a
mean,
possibility.
that's definitely within the realm of possibility, because judging is not until next summer. So the judging process, we can tweak it between now and next May easily. That's something we can work on. We just didn't know if we need to spend time polishing this up and getting the wording right. Maybe we need other categories on here. Maybe we need more rooms for comments at the end.
Are you gonna add like a point system up here too, where you sit there and easily add it, or just do like?
We tossed around the whole point system thing. And again, at the end of the day, when they're judged, unless something different is happening on the county level, but I know when I was in the county as an agent and Derek the same, I still always had more than one judge look at every book. So at the conclusion of someone judging the junior beef division, if they were a numbers person and wanted to write some point values down, that was their prerogative. But again, I was not sitting there crunching the numbers saying, you gave this kid a 98, you gave this kid a 97, so that one's automatically first and that one's automatically second. So at the end of the time, we just asked the 2 judges or 3 judges to put their heads together and say, out of all those books you looked at in the junior beef division, whose book was quality enough to be first? So, we throw it around, do we put number values on it or do we not?
My viewpoint is we don't let the scoring drive the process. Again, we got to go back to the purpose of keeping records. And what would be more helpful to you as a parent and to the kid who's filling out a record book? Would it be getting a score back that you scored an 85 out of 100? Or would it be that you need to work on this section a little bit, this section over here is a little weak, this section over here is really good? To me, that's what needs to drive the decision-making process. We can easily put point values on these. Column 1 could be 1 point, 2 points, 3 points, 4 points, we're done. So if you're a numeric kind of person when you're judging, you can do that. You could assign little points out here to the side for each row that you did and come up with a score at the end of it all.
So I say, sometimes you do have if they've got this many fours, not that they have a score, but if they have this many or this, you hit somewhat of a, from this number to this number, that's considered this, and this number to this number, that's considered this. We do that on the county level for like the blue ribbon or red ribbon, so that you have a ballpark. Because sometimes every once in a while, you might not have a lot that are in that top category, and so your first starts from this category, and you still have to choose the first.
Right.
But so that there was a little bit of a ballpark of, okay, I kind of need to hit this area.
Well, and the thing that I like about this too is that it can be scaled up or down to any age division. It's about the completeness, basically, of the records that are appropriate for that age. And so, there may, like I said, there's probably some things that could still be tweaked on here, but.
As I look at it, I also kind of see that this would help some adult leaders or volunteers, parents, know where they need to go. You know,
Yeah.
I can see, now this is what judges are going to be looking at,
Yeah.
so you need to kind of think about getting your kind of organized.
Right,
So I
right.
see
And
this as a teacher.
it tells you what the judges are looking for. I mean, as of right now, you don't know because some of y'all are getting comments about, well, this one wants a table and this one wants this. And so nowhere on here does it say, you know, this needs to be formatted in a table. That's not an option for a judge to write that in. I guess they could write it in the comments section.
This would be helpful for the kids to look at too.
Exactly.
Did I get this? Do I
Yeah.
have enough?
Yeah, I mean, there may be some things that, you know, it says like spelling and punctuation. Well, maybe the spelling was atrocious, but the punctuation was great. You know, so they can just kind of put that down here in the comments section as an additional thing. Hey, you know, I kind of thought it was funny that punctuation over here is not hyphenated, so that's kind of the spelling and punctuation part there. So I caught that yesterday. But oh well. But, you know, anyway, we just wanted to throw this out as a possibility and kind of get your feedback and see if this is a direction we need to really, really pursue between now and next summer. If it is,
Yes.
you heard that, right?
Yeah, camera.
Cameraman? All right. So,
At what age do you?
I mean, we encourage all 4-H members to keep records and do a record book. So, I mean, ideally, as soon as they join 4-H, or whether they join at 8 or 9 years old, or if they join when they're 12, that you would start doing a record book. Because the current system asks for you to include up to 4 years worth of information. And so if you've been in 4-H for 2 or 3 years and are just starting the record book program, and so you haven't done one for your first 3 years, that first one, it becomes really tough because you are expected to include the current year's information plus up to, 3 years prior to that. So
Even if you've not done.
even if you haven't done the record book, but you've been in 4-H doing the project.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so yeah, it becomes overwhelming if you don't start early on, but it's possible.
start off with just 1 year though.
And at what point do they start getting judged on it? I mean, is it kind of like that?
Juniors on up.
Juniors.
Yeah, as soon as they start doing them. Now, different, I know one of the counties that I served as the county agent in, they kind of had different programs, like you could do competitive record books or non-competitive record books. If you did I think the non-competitive deadline was a little bit later in the summer, and it was simply just to get recognized at the local 4-H banquet. But it didn't go through the judging process.
In our district too, we have memory books for juniors. So if juniors don't want to do the traditional record book, but just kind of get started, it's kind of like a scrapbook. Then they can do memory books and submit those.
Yeah, so each county may have their record book program a little bit differently, so you would probably just need to ask your local county agent, do y'all just do standard record books and that's it, or is there different options here, but, or is there an option of memory books? So, District 4 may be the only one that has the memory book option. I don't know. That's the first I've heard of it.
That's a good option.
Yeah, I don't like that idea. The MAPS is the member achievement plan. I'll come back so you have a question.
That's the pre-record book.
Yes. The current guidelines recommend that you start at the beginning of the year working on a member achievement plan, also referred to as a MAP. And it's kind of a little log or journal. Now you can use this. Some people don't want to deal with this paperwork, and so they just log stuff in a spiral notebook or on a calendar. It's just to kind of help you keep records.
That's on the website?
Yes, throughout the year. And so, it asks you to set a goal or two at the start of your project. It asks you to record if you went to a club meeting, to a workshop, to a clinic, whatever the case may be. It asks you to keep a little personal journal of what you learned at those things that you went to.
That's
Helps you
different.
later build your record
Yeah.
book.
That is different.
This is kid friendly. I'll agree. This is much more kid friendly.
Why isn't that like a record?
The record book. Good question. We've had that question too. A financial
Kids do
journal.
that in our club, and we have a huge response.
And then they
They
do
all
the map.
come and they just do it themselves, they write it in, it's beautiful. And then we ask them to
do a record book, we get four.
Yeah.
I thought that was
The record book. Okay, so the current concept is you start using this or whatever record keeping system your family has developed at the start of the year, and so you're keeping that and writing notes throughout the year, and then at the end of your 4-H year, normally late May, June, there's a record book deadline. So then you summarize the information from this and put it into our record keeping forms. Now again, I think that overcomplicates the system. So again, that's why we're looking at a few other options. So